All right, guys, today we're going to talk about computer skills. So you've got your notes that you can do the fill-in-the-blank notes as you watch this presentation. And then don't forget the quiz at the end of the presentation. You need to make sure that you do that. You can use your notes on the quiz. So take really good notes and make sure that you use the notes on the quiz so that you can get all 5 questions right. Okay? All right, so these are just the different kinds of computer skills that you're going to need in the real world. So the first thing that we've got to look at is desktop publishing software, and a lot of times this is presentation software. So it's used for composition, layout, editing, formatting of a document, and this can include text, graphic pictures, templates for letters, calendars, and publications. So here's some of the common software titles that fall into this category: Word, Publisher, Adobe, InDesign. So let me back up a little bit and say this isn't presentation software. This is publishing software. This is the kind of software that's used to make letters, newsletters, calendars, reports, essays, brochures, and flyers. Now we got to the presentation applications. Now these are used to display information, usually in the form of a slideshow. Programs to use are PowerPoint, PreziPro, Corel Presentations. Now PowerPoint is probably the big one. You can also throw in Google Presentations and things like Haiku Deck and things like that. Popular uses include business and educational presentations and photo slideshows. Here's some tips about creating a presentation. Limit the amount of text that you have on one slide. If you want somebody to read a paper, then you should just write a paper and give it to them. So try to not put a huge amount of text on slides, just the big points and pictures to go along. Use bullets to organize your information. Font size should be at least 24 points. Now that kind of depends on the font, but it needs to be big enough so that people in your audience can see. And avoid hard to read fonts, the scripts and things like that. They're hard to read, and so they basically end up being kind of useless. Spreadsheet applications are another thing that you're going to need to know how to use. They are a screen-oriented, interactive program enabling a user to lay out data on a screen. Usually it's a rectangular table or grid of information, often financial data. Programs to use are typically Microsoft Excel, Kspread, OpenOffice Calc, and Abacus. Popular uses: calculating financial information, organizing numerical and textual data, creating charts and graphs. And tips to use spreadsheets well is definitely use automatic calculations using formulas. There's no need to do hard math. The spreadsheet can do it for you. Combine spreadsheets into a workbook. You see all the little tabs at the bottom. Those are different sheets that are in that workbook. And then autofill function recognizes patterns in the spreadsheet for easier data entry. Now, the other thing that you might use are database applications, and these are kind of like an electronic filing cabinet. They're a processing system in which data can be stored, manipulated, reported, and managed. Some of the programs to use are Microsoft Access, MySQL, and Oracle. Some popular uses for databases are reports and data collection, address books, reservation systems, customer payroll and employee information, sales and order tracking. So some tips for using a database application is make sure you sketch your database relationships on paper before creating. Databases have a lot of tables that interact with one another, so it's good to kind of map them out. Keep track of the relationships between various parts of the database and integrate formulas to calculate data with ease. Some of the features include grouping, sorting, and arranging various types of data, creating multiple reports using the same data, and compiling mail-merged documents. Now, we also have collaborative and groupware applications. Basically, collaborative and groupware means that a lot of people can work on the same application or document at the same time. So it will allow multiple users to work on related tasks at the same time. It provides an avenue to help users coordinate and keep track of ongoing projects together. And some of the programs that use fall into this category are Lotus Notes and Microsoft SharePoint. So some of the popular uses for these are organizing calendars and schedules, databases, reference libraries. Some tips and features include they allow teams to work on the same project from any location. There's document sharing and extension to clients, suppliers, and etc. Another thing that you might see frequently are operating systems applications. These are software designed to control the hardware of a computer in order to allow users and application programs to make use of it. And some of the programs that you might see are Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. Now, email applications include the following computer-based programs: Microsoft Outlook, Windows Live Mail, and Mozilla Thunderbird. And a lot of companies are moving to more web browsers that may substitute for the mail clients, such as Gmail, Hotmail, and Yahoo. Now, there's some netiquette or some etiquette that you should use with these net-based things, and so it's etiquette or proper behavior in the electronic environment. That's the definition of netiquette. Some violations, so breaking some netiquette is sending an immediate angry overreaction to an email message that typically never ends well. Typing a message in all capital letters, it's viewed as shouting online. Forwarding personal messages without permission. Sending personal message to an entire list of contacts. Sending email messages criticizing others, using emoticons, type symbols to indicate facial expressions in business email. That's becoming a little less of a break in netiquette, but it's still considered kind of bad form. Email privacy. So a big thing is about, people a lot of times communicate sensitive information over email, so it's important to honor people's privacy. Courts have upheld the right of corporations to review the email of employees who use company resources to compose and send email messages, such as hardware, software, and time. Employees should be sensible in their use of email. You do not put in electronic writing anything that you would not want publicly distributed. Email privacy policies have been implemented by many organizations and should clearly define an employer's expectations of how email should be used by employees, and should outline conditions for when personal email is acceptable. Some email issues include spam. This is unsolicited commercial email. Uses an inexpensive internet connection to basically, shoot out a bunch of ads into your inbox. Worms and viruses also come through on email. They use email as a way of reaching vulnerable computers. Some other email issues include phishing, an email falsely claiming to be an established legitimate business, and it attempts to scam the user into providing some private information which will be used for identity theft, so that should be used, not sued. It directs the user to visit a bogus website typically and asks the user to update personal information the real organization already has, such as passwords, credit card information, social security number, and bank account number. So always be aware of those kinds of emails that might come across your inbox. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is the computer skills assessment. So make sure that you go back and make sure all of your fill-in-the-blank notes are complete, and then move on to the assessment, which the link should be on Google Classroom.